Hi, my name is Amanda Ziva. Welcome to my channel, Learning with the Word Nerd. Today I have some guests on this interview, actually more people than I've ever had on my channel before. I'm here with my sons, Cam and Riley.
Hi.
Hi. And we are so excited because today we get to interview Chad Sell. Hi, Chad.
Hi there. It's great to be with all of you and to chat about some of my books.
Yeah, thank you so much. Well, I know that in our household, you can probably tell by t-shirts, sports are pretty big in our house, but just as high up there is graphic novels and reading graphic novels. And if they can't go pro in the NFL, being a graphic novelist is at the top of their list. So they're so excited to talk with you. We're also really excited because we found out you grew up in Wisconsin, and that's where we live. And it's always very exciting to find out that someone who grew up where you grew up does what you want to do, and it just feels a little bit more attainable. So they're really excited to ask you about that, about some of your kid things in Wisconsin too.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Well, for people who don't know you, why don't you give us a little bit of a quick introduction, and then we'll just jump into our questions.
Well, I'm a cartoonist. I have two books out. One is The Cardboard Kingdom, and the other is Doodleville. And then I have sequels for both book series coming out soon. Yeah, Doodleville I wrote and drew by myself, and Cardboard Kingdom I drew myself, but I wrote it with 10 other writers. And I'm happy to talk about that process too.
Very exciting. Awesome. Well, thank you so much again for being here. Cam, why don't you jump in with your first question?
Okay. What kinds of things did you do as a boy growing up in Wisconsin?
So I was kind of a nerd. I didn't play like sports and stuff. I drew a lot. I read comic books. I played video games. I did some acting in high school. Lots of artsy stuff. I played drums in band and stuff like that. I had a really nice childhood in Wisconsin. I grew up in the very middle of the state in a city called Marshfield.
Our cousins live in Marshfield.
Sorry?
Our cousins live in Marshfield.
Oh, really? That's awesome. Yeah, it's a really nice little city.
Yeah, what a small world. All right, Riley, your question's next.
What kind of training did you do to become a graphic novelist?
I never really studied how to make comics that much. Most of my training was in all kinds of other things. I studied photography and filmmaking and acting, drawing, painting, and all of that kind of combined into graphic novels. Storytelling, telling a story visually, how to, the basics of drawing a human and poses and stuff like that. There are some schools and programs that do specialize in graphic novels. But yeah, I had more of a well-rounded liberal arts education. I feel like most cartoonists have their own weird journey that brought them to graphic novels.
Okay. Did you have another job before becoming a graphic novelist, or that you did while you were beginning being a graphic novelist?
Yeah, Cardboard Kingdom was my first published book, and that didn't come out until I was 35 years old. So I was really fortunate. For many years, I made a living as a freelance illustrator, just having an Etsy store, selling stuff, selling prints and books that I had printed and self-published there. And right out of college, I took care of my grandparents, and then I took care of another elderly couple. And hopefully, I'd like to make a comic about that someday, but that would obviously be really different than Cardboard Kingdom.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. All right, Cam, I think you're next.
No, Riley never asked a question. Oh, wait,
yeah,
you did. What is the best part about being a graphic novelist?
There are a lot of really good parts about it. I think the most gratifying parts, are when I hear from readers like you kids, and hear what you liked about the books and what you were inspired to do after reading the books. I saw recently on social media someone shared their Cardboard Kingdom themed birthday party that they had, and they had filled like whole rooms of their house with amazing cardboard castles and buildings and fortresses that they had built.
That's really
And
cool.
just having that effect on kids is really, really awesome, you know. On one hand, sometimes I can feel like writing comic books, you know, my husband's a doctor. he saves lives, you know, and it can feel kind of silly to just draw my little cartoons day to day when he's like in the surgery room. But I know how important comics and books were to me as a kid, and I hope that I can have that impact on kids your age and your generation.
That's
Can I
awesome.
ask you, in Cardboard Kingdom, did you have any favorite characters or stories that you related to the most?
Not really. I kind of had a little bit in each one for Cardboard Kingdom, cause I don't know. I just really like every character in there, and I like how like the chapter names are like the characters becoming themselves, and how they're using their imagination a lot.
If either of you were a character in your own Cardboard Kingdom, do you have any idea what kind of character you would be?
Maybe like one of the warriors, like her. I can't remember her name.
The knight? Yeah.
Yeah, the knight.
I would be.
And there's more on the inside.
I know, but from the front, I would be that one.
The warrior.
Yeah.
Looks like you're both heroes. You like to stand up for order and the good. Neither of you would be in the army of evil, huh?
No.
Wait, is that
Fairness is something we
No.
talk about a lot. So that sounds
Yeah.
about right. So all right, Riley, I think you have the next question.
Who is someone you looked up to as a kid?
I looked up to a lot of art teachers, and my aunt was an artist, and it was really exciting to see her making art and her taking me seriously and bringing me into her studio and teaching me different techniques and talking about art as a fellow artist. I think that helped me feel like I could take my art seriously as an adult someday. So those were a lot of the people I looked up to.
That's awesome. That's part of what I'm hoping to do here too by letting the boys have a chance to talk with you is, you know, I always wanted to be a writer growing up too, but I didn't know any writers. I didn't have any friends whose parents were writers. And so it didn't really feel like a real, you know, career option. And so I think it is great when artists and authors and illustrators get a chance to talk with kids so they do know it is a real job and it is something they really can do. So thank you for helping me do this with them.
Yeah, you bet. So you both like drawing and telling stories, or do you like one aspect of making comics?
I know Riley's working on a comic right now, but
Dogman.
yeah, he's making his own Dogman book.
Oh, cool.
And I'm not really making anything at the moment, but I do really like to draw.
Cam, you do more like just single drawings more
drawings.
than like a series of them or in a comic.
Yeah.
If you guys had to say you liked writing, doing the writing part better or the drawing part better, what would you say?
I'm 50-50.
Okay.
I like
Yeah, you know, when I was a kid, I mostly drew my characters in my sketchbook and kind of imagined stories for them. You know, making actual comic book pages is a lot of work. And so I did that a few times in middle school and in high school. But I didn't really regularly make comics until college. But I think it's that act of creating characters and sort of daydreaming about what their story might be that I found really appealing as a kid. And that's a lot of kind of the inspiration of Doodleville, how in drawing a character, they kind of come to life, even if just in your own head, and they kind of grow with you as you grow up.
good. Well, I think that leads us really well into the next question. Riley, can you ask this question? I don't know if it's your turn or not, but it's a good one. Why don't you go with that?
Do you think the writing is harder or the drawing?
I think that I struggled with writing more early on in my career. I loved drawing. I felt like I was a good artist, but the stories I was working on just weren't managing to sell. You know, I tried pitching a few books before Cardboard Kingdom finally was bought by a publisher. And that's part of why I sought out a team of people to help me write Cardboard Kingdom, because I kept sort of doubting whether my story was good enough. I wasn't sure which stories should fit in Cardboard Kingdom, but finding people to come up with characters that would live in that world really helped me, and bouncing around ideas and hearing their stories really helped me develop the confidence to tell my own stories now. And so now I like working with other people, and I also feel capable of working by myself. So now I almost feel like I'm a better writer, and the art, doing the art for a graphic novel tends to take the most time. So writing's not easy, but the writing process is typically a shorter process. And then doing all that art takes months and months.
I think it's so important too that you mentioned that you work with other people, because I think a lot of people assume that as writers and creators and artists that like you just spend a lot of time by yourself. I know I spend a lot of time in my office on my own too. But really it can be a collaborative process. You can, spend a lot of time with other people and bring them into your creation process. So, if there's someone out there who's like, I like art, but I also like people, or I want to be a writer, but I want to be able to, I don't want to work by myself.
Right.
It's good to know that you don't have to, because there's kind of this myth that, creators are kind of loners and they just spend all their time by themselves. So that's awesome that you're able to work with other people.
Well, and that's why I was curious about both of you kids, whether one of you liked drawing and the other liked writing, and teamed up to make a comic together or something like that, because that's often how comics are made. One, like a superhero comic has a bunch of different people involved in the process, where one person writes, one person does the pencil sketches, one person does the final line art, then another person does the word balloons, and another person does the colors. So everyone kind of does what they're best at, and that can all add up to something much better and more polished than either of them might have been able to do by themselves.
Right.
It's kind of like in Dogman, they have like George and Harold in the beginning, and in the movie it says that one does the writing and one does the drawing, and they just like some just like one draws the pictures and then hands it over to the writer, and then he writes the words and then gives it back to see how the drawer thinks.
Yeah, so each person can have their own thing that they're really, really good at, but together they're even better.
Yeah.
Right? You guys would not want a book where I do the arts. I can tell you that right now.
No.
All right. Cam, do you have another question over there?
Where did you get the ideas for the different characters in Cardboard Kingdom?
So I had the idea for a neighborhood where kids would all play together, and each of them would have their own characters, and each of them would have their own chapters. But at first I wasn't sure who those characters would be. And I had worked on a few characters. I had some of them sketched out, and I'd actually done a short story with my friend Jay about the sorceress, and that's actually the first chapter in the book. And we really liked it, and we really thought, oh, it would be really cool to do more stories in this world, but neither of us were sure what those stories would be. And so we kind of let it sit for a few years, and then I was inspired by a lot of the really cool collaborative stuff that was going on the internet at that time, where people were coming together to do books together, or do a crowdfunding thing for their Kickstarter book. And I thought maybe I could channel some of that online connectivity, those capabilities that you find with the more positive aspects of the internet, and find people who wanted to add their own stories to the Cardboard Kingdom. So I shared the sorceress story on my website, and I shared my vision for the full book, and anyone for a few months could submit their story idea. And I got over 100 submissions and picked the 10 people that I wrote the book with. And, you know, that was in 2015. And I've continued working with those folks up till today. And it's really awesome and lucky to have connected with them and to be creating these characters together.
That's awesome.
I also noticed in the back of Cardboard Kingdom that not on the back, in like one of the back pages, it has like some credits of like who helped you with like the different characters. Like Vid Alger and Cloud Jacobs. They're named by a picture of one of the characters.
So that's cool. You can see all the people,
Yeah.
all the people that he worked with. So maybe it wasn't a surprise to you. It was a surprise to me. I didn't know he worked with 10 other people. I learned something new today.
Yeah.
All right. I think you have one question left, right?
Yeah, I have one left. Where is it? What advice do you have for kids who would like to be a graphic novelist?
My advice for someone who wants to make comics is to make comics. One of my favorite things before COVID, and I was able to travel and visit schools and comic book conventions, is getting kids comics where I would buy or they would trade with me. What I love about comics, even though doing a big published book like Cardboard Kingdom takes years and a big publisher and lots and lots of paper, I love that comics like this can be made with just a few pieces of paper. This is in full color. I met these two young ladies who did this book together. I think one illustrated and one wrote this. But this is this is also full color. This is black and white, but I believe that the artist drew with pencil, with colored pencil, to do the colors there. And I just think it's really awesome to see art made by other kids. And you can learn how to just fold some paper and staple it together to make your own comic. I think that's really, really cool. You know, like I was telling you, when I was a kid, I didn't make comics like this. I didn't know that that was even an option. But when I talk to kids like you, I'd like to share that nothing's holding you back. You know, you can make your own comics, whether they're just 4 pages long, and just tell a funny, cute little story. And that's the very best way to get better at making comics, is to make comics. And, you know, if you have access to a scanner and printer or a copy machine or something like that, maybe with the help of your parent or a librarian or a teacher, you can make copies of your comic. And then you can give them to your friends or sell them or do whatever you want. And that's just like really, really an exciting opportunity. And I hope that maybe you're inspired to try that.
Sounds like a lot of fun, I think. What do you guys think? Yeah?
Good.
Good. All right. Well, that's the end of our questions. I just have one more. Could you tell us what you're working on next, or when your new books are coming out, or kind of where people can find you, all the good things?
Yeah. The next book that I have coming out is the sequel to Cardboard Kingdom, called The Cardboard Kingdom, The Roar of the Beast. And that features the same kids that you meet in book 1 as they get ready for Halloween. So it's, whereas Cardboard Kingdom book 1 told each individual kid's story, book 2 is one big story with all the characters. So it's just like it's very fun, it's very suspenseful and mysterious.
Kind of
and
like
then
changing the concept of the series, because the first book was like just introducing all the characters, and now you're ready to make a story.
Yeah, you're right. The first book is kind of their origin stories, and it was exciting now that you've met them to sort of go wild with a big, complicated, exciting adventure. And then I'm working on Doodleville book 2 right now, and that should be out next fall, I think. And so I have a bunch of more information and YouTube videos and paper craft designs and stuff on my website, chadsellcomics.com. And on social media, I'm chadsell01 on Instagram and Twitter, and I think I have a Facebook page that might have a different name.
Awesome. Well, I will be sure to put all of those links down in the description, but thank you so much for joining us. We're so excited and inspired both to read and to create our own comics. Boys, what do you say for Chad joining us today?
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks so much. It was great meeting all of you.
All of you, yes. Awesome. Well, thank you everyone for tuning in today to Learning with the Word Nerd, and we hope you come back again for more great author interviews and book recommendations. Give the video a like and subscribe.